Hello! Welcome to the Ascon channel. Today we're going to be going through the Winter Misanthropic Guide deck video. If you haven't seen the live stream VOD where I talk about this $12 budget deck that I got, do so in the video link here if that works, if I get that to work. I'm still kind of new to this. But anyway, we're going to be talking about some upgrades that I found laying about in my card collection, and we're gonna go through the cards that I will take out of the budget deck and show you what I've added. So first things first, I got him a new deck box just because it's one of these cool ones where you can put a top loader to display your commander in. Oh, there's a token in there. There you go in his shiny glory. Well, he's in a holographic sleeve, so he's a little shinier than usual. I swear it's a lot better in person than it is on screen right now. But yeah, we're gonna go through some upgrades for that. I'm not gonna go through the entire deck. If you want the deck list for both the original build and the upgraded list, I'll put them in the description below. So we're just gonna take a look. The cards that I am taking out. Alright, first things first. I kinda regret leaving them in the holo sleeves right now, but anyway. As much as I love this card, Bear Trap, it's cute. It's a 1 to cast artifact with flash. You can pay 3 to tap it, to sacrifice it, to deal 3 damage to a target creature, and then it goes into the graveyard to help trigger Delirium for old Winter Boy over here. I found that it's not as impactful as I want to be. Usually in my play group, the 3 damage is not enough to take out anything too problematic. Sometimes they're just out of reach, either by pump effects or by their inherent stat. And the ability for it to deal 3 damage costs also 3. If it costs maybe 2, that might be a bit easier to use, but even though it comes down for 1, I just don't really find myself finding a good opportunity to use it, and that's why I'm taking it out. Even though I would love to keep this silly little artifact, and hey, maybe I'll put it back in just for funsies eventually, because I need to do more tests with the upgrade. Fester Leech, it's a 1 to cast, 1 drop, and when it deals combat damage to a player, you mill 2 cards. It can pump itself once per turn, for +2 for 2, so it could become a 3/3. I wish it was enter the battlefield at least, or if you could just continuously pump it, but the fact that it needs to deal combat damage is just a little too slow to get the mill trigger off, and that's why I'm taking it out. Desperate Bloodseeker, lifelink, 2/2 for 2. When it enters the battlefield, target player mills 2 cards. Usually that'll be me. But again, it's a one-time thing. There are more impactful mill cards, and like the lifelink is cute, but I don't really find myself using it a lot. Irreverent Gremlin in foil, ironically, in a holo sleeve. 2/2 for 2 with Menace, that's not bad. Whenever a creature you control with power 2 or less enters, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Do it only once each turn. This is not bad, but the fact that I'm not making a ton of small creatures, plus I'm taking out, like, I've taken out 2 small creatures, I just don't find myself triggering this at all. Plus it's a rummage effect, so I need to discard before I draw. And weirdly enough, even though Winter draws you 2 cards at your upkeep, if like he's taken out, which usually happens because people don't want to discard cards, I just don't have a lot of cards that I want to discard to Irreverent Gremlin. Plus it's a bit too conditional, at least for this current build. Like, I want the Jund Stompies. This might be good for the Balloon Man deck, if you've seen that deck tech little video. The Hand That Feeds, this is very thematic, Duskmoor and monsters. It's just that it's more for like 1v1 draft. The only Delirium benefit it has is gets +2/+0 on Menace until end of turn. And like its toughness is still at 2. If it gained maybe a point or 2 of toughness, maybe I'll keep it. But the fact that it's basically for the most part a vanilla 2/2 for 2, unless you have Delirium, it's like it doesn't do enough that I want to keep it in my commander deck. Silver Deputy, 2/1 for 2. There's a battlefield. I may search for a basic land or a desert card, which the base deck that I got does not come with a single desert card. And the fact that you put the land on top of the deck instead of in your hand, unlike with like Skittering Surveyor, this is just not that great. It can pump something for +1/+0, but it usually doesn't matter. At least in the games I've played, so sadly, this has got to go. Beastie Beatdown. It's a fight spell, and if you have Delirium, you get to put 2 counters on the creature before it fights, which is cool. It's not bad, I'm not gonna lie. It's just that, at least in my play group, it doesn't do enough, or I don't have a creature that, you know, I can target to fight with. There's another fight spell in here, but it has the added effect of me being able to select a creature from my hand as well as on my field. So this has got to go. Plus, I found that the strict color pips have caused problems where I couldn't cast the thing, so that's gotta go. Again, with another Gruul card. I mean, it's a 3/2 with haste, which is not bad. Then it gets +1/+1 trample if Delirium's triggered, so it becomes a 4/3 with haste. That's not bad. I mean, I guess the cool part is it's both an artifact and a creature type to help Delirium. If he happens to die, we'll see. I might put this back in just because of the double creature type. But at least for now, it's just not pulling enough weight. This is still in my sort of maybe fun casual board. So again, it's not pulling enough weight. I'm a cool Scrapsmith. When it enters the battlefield, mill 3 cards. I may put an artifact from among those milled into my hand. If not, put a 1/1 counter on this creature. So it becomes a 3/2 for 3. Or it can return a milled artifact. I tend to whiff a lot with the artifact. It would be cool to get back something, but usually it's either an artifact that's not impactful at the moment, or he straight up whiffs and I just milled something else. And his stats are not great. If it was a repeatable mill effect, maybe. I mean, I can't blame him. He's a common. He does a lot for a common, but at least for now. Fanatic of the Harrowing. A 2/2 for 4 when it enters. Each player discards a card. If you discarded the card this way, draw a card. It's good. It's fine. It's just that it's not repeatable. And for 4 mana, a 2/2, if he was a 3/3 maybe, that could be something. But man, it's just not as impactful as I want it to be. But again, I've gotten this to work a few times, but since most of my opponents are discarding cards at their end step anyway, this is just a very obtuse draw effect for me, which I think I can replace. Rampaging Geoderm. Trample haste 3/3 for 4 with Gruul mana. Whenever you attack, targeting attacking creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. If it's attacking a battle, which might matter, put a 1/1 counter on it instead. Fringe scenario, it's gotten to work a few times since there are battles in this deck. I believe this has actually all 9 card types, and there are at least enough battles, some of which I would like to transform. But again, by itself, if there's no battles either, it just doesn't do anything. So that's gonna go. For Froze's Emissary, this one is not too bad. I mean, the double creature type is cool. It's a 3/3 with menace for 4. And the Bestow is a hefty 7 though, but it's mostly here for the enchantment and creature type, but I think I've been able to sub this for something else. There is an enchantment that I found that can sacrifice itself, so that can help trigger Delirium. As much as this is a good mill target, like, it doesn't do enough. Again, I can't fault it. It's a common that does a lot of things, but for now, it's gonna go. Malamet Veteran. This one I have not gotten to trigger enough times for it to be relevant. So it has Trample. It's a 5/4 for 5, which isn't bad. With Descent 4. If there are 4 or more permanent cards in my graveyard, which usually there are, put a 1/1 counter on target creature. The fact that he has to attack and only pumps one thing, it can pump itself for sure, but usually he doesn't even get a chance to attack given how hefty he costs. Again, it's not bad, and I might put it back, but I think I can find better quote-unquote win cons for this slot. Fear of Burning Alive. Now, this is a card that doesn't do enough. I mean, it has the double creature type, which is cool. It deals 4 damage when it enters the battlefield. But the Delirium, kind of nothing, because I don't have enough non-creature damage dealers in this. I'm taking out, actually, one of them. So as much as I would like to have this in the deck, because of the theme, the set, and the name, it's just not pulling enough weight, so this is gonna go. Speaking of non-creature damage, here's Shock. It's here for the instant type, and you know, it's a one to cast, but another instant. This one is a pump spell. There's 1/0 first strike. If you have Delirium, it gains double strike. Sure, this is draft chaff. It's not bad. Usually they can block the thing anyway, but you know, this one I was having second thoughts because despite Winter having Ward 2, people just want to kill the guy because of his Delirium effect, which either isn't triggered or is immediately triggered. So the Indes is kind of cool. The Death Touch could be relevant. I've gotten this to trick out a few people a few times. But there's another Indes effect here, plus I think I can find better ways to protect Winter. If not, just ramp enough that I can just recast him. So this is gonna go. Cash Grab. This was in the precon because, you know, it's a mill 4, then you can return a permanent milled among them to your hand, which is neat. But the other half of it, I mean, it is 2 mana, so it's not a lot. 2 mana mill 4. The squirrel part doesn't matter because there's no squirrels in this deck. The mill 4 is fine, but I think I can find more repeatable effects better than this card can give. Goodbye, Cash Grab. and I'm actually taking out 2 mountains. I'm changing these with another land and a modal double-face card that has a land on the backside. Also, the mana base for this is super unoptimized because it's just an even amount of swamps, mountains, and forests, not taking into account the amount of colors that the deck has. So usually I find myself color screwed where I'm drawing too much red and not enough green or not enough black. Yeah, I'm subbing these for 2 other lands, and I believe I've added more methods of ramp because this deck surely needs them. So that's 20 cards that were taken out. So I mentioned that this doesn't have enough ramp, and this deck did not come with a single mana rock. So we're adding Mind Stone because at the very least I can sack it to draw if I have too much land, and that will fuel the Delirium. Bad mana rocks, but they do have the effect to sacrifice and draw. Like, I'm playing slow anyway, and I don't have enough copies of the Signet, so might as well play with the lockets. I do like the art, plus this one is in Japanese, which is kind of cool. So Golgari locket and the Gruul locket. I probably should find the other one, the Rakdos locket, but I don't know where it is. I know I have it somewhere, but it's not here. Next up, here's the MDFC I was talking about, which is, it's a Bojuka Bog on a creature, and on the other side, it's a tapped swamp. So it can sub for a land, and if I don't need it as a land, it can be a creature that exiles a target player's graveyard, which will not be me. More budget lands, but hey, this one at least taps for any color. And I mentioned that this deck is slow enough already, so it doesn't hurt to have this card in the deck. Rupture Spire, it enters tapped, and I need to pay 1 or else it sacrifices itself. But color fixing is important, so that's going in. Here's one of the other ones I added extra, which is Cottage. We are milling a lot, so I would like a way to at least return a creature card that might win me the game from the graveyard. So this is here for that specific effect. Most of the time I get it to work, but there are times where I just don't have enough swamps. But still, I do like having the utility of this, so that's going in. Speaking of reanimating creatures, Defossilize. I'm sure there are other cards better than this, especially for a whopping 5. But I do like the effect. It returns a creature card from my graveyard to the battlefield, and then it explores twice, which means it could get bigger or at the very least ramp me some more. By, like, not pure ramp, but at least add lands to my hand. For now, this is seeing a home in this deck. Here's what I mentioned earlier, where there's an enchantment that can sacrifice itself to help fuel Delirium. So Bitter Reunion is an
Tormenting Voice.
Or when it enters, I may discard a card and draw 2 for 2 mana, and then I can sacrifice this enchantment to give haste to my creatures until end of turn. So that's worked out for the most part during my testing. I do like it. It only costs 2, so it's strictly better.
Tormenting Voice.
So it's finding a home in here right now. This one I found from Odyssey, original Odyssey, in my collection. Deep Reconnaissance, search for a basic land, and then it has flashback. Once there are more sorceries in the deck, I can just use the flashback to, you know, late game. Another enchantment that can sacrifice itself to help tutor for lands, Colony Heart Expedition. Very, very slow, but still, it gives me options and it can help trigger Delirium. Speaking of enablers for Delirium, we got an artifact creature, Burnished Heart, and sacrifice itself to search for 2 basic lands, come onto the battlefield tap. Usually, most people won't target this thing, so I get the chance to sacrifice it. Possibly block at least once, and it's in foil, so cool. Wickerfolk Thresher, I like this one. When it attacks, if there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, pick the top of your library. If it's a land, I may put it into the battlefield. It doesn't say tap or anything, and if I don't, put it into my hand, so that's cool. The stats are not bad. It's a 5/4 for 4, so that's cool. Plus, if it dies, it's an artifact and a creature for the double type. Jaloom Tome. This is a dumb in-joke where I have too many copies of Jaloom Tome, and I just need to find a home for them somewhere. I mean, there are strictly better versions of this where it's a draw discard, but I have this old version and I want to use it. So welcome home, Jaloom Tome. Bob Nixels, the Hate Twisted, the uncommon planeswalker from War of the Spark. He's a kill spell on planeswalker ability with the passive, so you know I can usually pop 1 to 2 creatures. Sure, they draw cards, but I get rid of a problem, and if they draw it, he pings them for damage. And this deck comes with 2 planeswalkers, both of which are also from War of the Spark. So having a third to help trigger Delirium is cool. We also got the other Winter, so we're in the quote-unquote win conditions of the deck. And if my graveyard is hella packed, this version of Winter can just bring out one of those things with a finality counter, meaning if the thing with the finality counter goes to the graveyard, it's exiled instead. But usually if they can't immediately destroy it, it's a problem. So the finality counter is more like reward than it is risk. Plus, a friend gave this to me for free. It's in the borderless art variant, which is cool. Because we got both winters in the deck. I think that's neat. So that's going in the deck. Soul Swallower, one of my first booster pulls from Shadows over Innistrad. One of the first booster packs I actually opened when I first got into Magic, and I've just been wanting to find a home for this. So the Delirium is perfect because Delirium, he has trample, he can get bigger. Granted, you need to get to your upkeep first, so it is very slow, but I had to run this. And possibly one of the actual win conditions is Izoni 1000-eyed. Since we're milling a lot, Izoni can make a bunch of 1/1 insects based on the number of creatures in my graveyard. Plus, she can sacrifice them to gain a life and draw a card, which could sort of matter. The tokens may be small, I may not make a lot, but usually it gets eyes on my board when they see Izoni make more than 4 tokens. And Big Spice, we got Bringer of the Last Gift, where it's a hefty 8 mana. Double black. It's essentially Living Death with legs or on a stick. So if you cast it, each player sacrifices all other creatures they control and then swaps them with the creatures in their graveyard. So if my graveyard is full and theirs are not, this is just big late game mana value. Like I mentioned, this deck plays very slow, so I will be sitting on a bunch of land. So hopefully I can cast this and not draw this on my opening hand. There you go. Forming Emergence. I think this is just on theme. And the Ixalan, like the uncommon legendary that is associated with this effect, is in the deck when I got it. I thought it was just neat to put in. Fathomless Descent, return to the battlefield, target non-land permanent in my graveyard with mana value less than or equal to the number of permanents in my graveyard. So, oh boy, there's gonna be a bunch of permanents in my graveyard, so hopefully we can get something good with this effect. Plus it only costs 3. At the very least, it's one of the few sorceries that can help fuel Delirium again. And I forgot to mention that we're in the spicy include category of the upgrades, so Squirming Emergence is there for fun. And the final card is Treasure Chest from Dungeons & Dragons. It's 3 to cast, and it can sacrifice itself to get me one of 3 effects when I roll a d20. We usually don't get the one. It's happened at least once, but for the most part, you're gonna get a bunch of treasure tokens, which is cool and very useful. Or gain 3 life and draw 3 cards, which is a lot. Or tutor for a card. If it happens to be an artifact, you put it onto the battlefield for free. This does a lot for 3 mana. Granted, it costs 4 to sacrifice, but usually I can at least do this on the next turn, if not the same turn if we're playing late game. Plus it was a foily booster pack pull from my D&D bundle box, so I just want to find a home for this as well. So those are the upgrades. 20 cards out, 20 cards in. Again, there's many ways to do this. I believe in terms of price, it's just like a $5 to $7 increase. You can see here. So on Card Kingdom, it's $28 for the budget version. I believe on TCG Player, the lowest you can get is $5. On Card Kingdom, it's $30 for the upgraded one. And the cheapest you can get it is $9.62. So not even a full $5 for the upgrades. I've yet to properly test out the upgraded version, so it's more of like a theory than it is, you know, a proper upgrade. But I am having a lot of fun with this budget deck. It's nice to play with lower power commander deck sometimes. Nice change of pace. Reminds me of the time back before commander started becoming really fast. The good old days of 2018. That was a long time ago. Good lord. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this little video for an upgraded version of a budget deck or Winter Misanthropic Guide. Jund them out, mail yourself, and hopefully you had fun. If you enjoyed the video, do the YouTube stuff, rate, comment, subscribe, and all that. Share it with your friends. Tell me what upgrades you would like to include in this deck, and if you like playing with Winter as your commander. But that's it for me for this video. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.